All righty. Good evening, pre-calc. I hope you guys are staying warm because boy, do I have a warm up for us if you don't. Today we're going to be going over kind of a basic intro to angle of elevation and depression. Now, what is angle of elevation and what is angle of depression, you may be asking? Well, it's a direct consequence of kind of something we went over recently. But the angle of depression is how they first like to introduce it, is this angle right here. I don't know if you're able to see my beautiful artistic work kind of already in a museum at this point. But let's say that you're lifeguard Jay chilling on a chair, right? And then you see this person who wants help because they don't know how to swim. Then the angle of depression would be the angle formed by where the person is looking versus the parallel line to their eyesight. So it's this little angle right here. It looks like it's a 0, but it's actually, we use a symbol called theta, which is a Greek letter that we're going to be using quite often. It's a circle with a horizontal line through it. It's usually used to represent the letter or the sound TH if you're talking in Greek. And the angle of elevation is kind of a similar story. Let's say you're chilling right here. You see some sort of a plane or a UFO, depends on where you're at. Then to your eyesight, or I guess the ground, and the way that you're looking at it, the angle of elevation is theta right here, is the angle formed by where you're looking and your parallel sight. Now, first question that you're going to fill out in the Google form is, I argue that the angle of elevation and the angle of depression are identical. Why would I argue that? Well, your objective is to answer the question on the Google form. Just write out your thoughts on how you would approach it, just showing how they're equal. But my hint to you there is make a rectangle. And then kind of draw out some diagonals and see what would be the angle of depression and the circumstance versus the angle of elevation. I argue that they're equivalent. Speaking of that, let's go into the one example I want to walk through together. This is straight from the pre-calculus textbook. And I straight up thought this was the funniest question ever. Because usually with word questions, you know, they get memed on saying, well, let's say Johnny bought 8 apples and he took away 3. Based on this information, calculate the mass of the sun. And the textbook kind of worded the question very similarly, and I thought that was hilarious. It's an example because it might not be legible on the computer, who knows. The length of the shadow of a building is 34.09 meters tall, or the length of the shadow of a building that's 34.09 meters tall is 37.62 meters. Find the angle of elevation of the sun. Now, how might you approach this? Well, I love drawing pictures, and I'm such a good drawer. So here's my building right here. Look at that. It's got a window, and it's got a wall. And then here is the sun, Jay chilling, pretty close to the building. And it says that they want to find the angle of elevation of the sun. But we also know that the shadow, the length of the shadow. Now, assuming it's not the Leaning Tower of Pisa right here, we got a right angle. And we want to find the angle of elevation, meaning this bad boy right here. We'll call it theta for now. And we'll get in the habit of doing that, because once we actually start trig, that's going to be the letter we use to represent angles. So now, let's label the building, or let's label the heights that we know. So 37.62 meters. And then this is 34.09 meters. And just like how we did before, today, we want to figure out which trig identity we're using. Well, based on this angle right here, it looks like we have the opposite side, and we also have the adjacent side. So doing the Sohn-Cotella method, we know that tangent would be the one we want. So tangent of this angle theta is the opposite side, being 34.09, divided by the adjacent side, so 37.62. Now, I haven't really necessarily taught how to find the angle given the other two lengths. Today, we just kind of went over how to find the side lengths given the angle. But just to tickle your fancy, we're going to use this thing called an inverse trig function, meaning that in order to find it, there's a button above the calculator, the tan to the -1 power. That's essentially how we do it. There's a lot more nuance to it, which we'll get into once we actually start the trig stuff. But in order to isolate your theta, see if I'm blocking this. I might be. Not too bad. But you want to use the tan to the -1 power and punch this in your calculator. Then you should get theta to be about 42.18 degrees. And there we go. So that's how you would do it. Now, my question to you, question number 2 on your Google form is what you're going to fill out to get your attendance points. My question to you is, what do you like to do on your snow days? Do you like to build snowmen? Do you have any awesome winter or snow day memories from past, before AMI, so before COVID? Because nowadays we don't really have snow days. I know back in my day, I used to love sledding, and I tried building a snowman, but I was kind of mid at it. But keep up warm. Good. Email me if you have any questions, and like, comment, subscribe.